Okay, hello class. Today I'm going to be recording your tests only, so make sure that you access the speed building. Okay, so these are your tests only. And so on your 100 lit number 1, you have Pontiac, Pumpkin, Santa Claus, Newell Avenue, Patty, America, Christmas Eve, and Moms. Okay, and so this is going to be your test number 1 for 5 minutes lit. Make sure you access your speed building first, okay? I slouched down in the passenger seat of our Pontiac because it was the cool way to sit when one is in the 4th grade. My dad was driving downtown to shop, and I was going along for the ride. At least that's what I had told him. Actually, I had an important question to ask that had been on my mind for a couple of weeks, and this was the first time I had been able to maneuver myself into his presence without being overt about it. Dad, I started and stopped. Yes, he said, some of the kids at school have been saying something, and I know it's not true. I felt my lower lip quiver from the effort of trying to hold back the tears. I felt threatening the inside corner of my right eye. It was always the one that wanted to cry first. What is it, Pumpkin? I knew he was in a good mood when he used this endearment. The kids say there is no Santa Claus. Gulp. One tear escaped. They say I'm dumb to believe in Santa anymore. It's only for little kids. My left eye started with a tear on the inside track. But I believe what you told me, that Santa is real. He is, isn't he, Dad? Up to this point, we had been cruising down Newell Avenue, which was in those days a 2-lane road lined with oak trees. At my question, my dad glanced over at my face and body position. He pulled over to the side of the road and stopped the car. Dad turned off the engine and moved over closer to me. His still little girl huddled in the corner. The kids at school are wrong, Patty. Santa Claus is real. I knew it. I heaved a sigh of relief. But there is more I need to tell you about Santa. I think you are old enough now to understand what I am going to share with you. Are you ready? My dad had a warm gleam in his eyes and a soft expression on his face. I knew something big was up, and I was ready because I trusted him completely. He would never lie to me. Once upon a time, there was a real man who was traveling the world and gave away presents to deserving children everywhere he went. You will find him in many lands with different names, but what he had in his heart was the same in every language. In America, we call him Santa Claus. He is the spirit of unconditional love and the desire to share that love by giving presents from the heart. When you get to a certain age, you come to realize that the real Santa Claus is not the guy who comes down your chimney on Christmas Eve. The real life and spirit of this magical elf lives forever in your heart, my heart, Mom's, and then your 100 number 2, it continues, same material. And so we have proper names: Santa, Christmas, Patty, Dad, Santa Claus, Rudolph, and Daddy. And this is going to be 100 number 2 for 5 minutes test. The real spirit of Santa becomes what you can give rather than what you get. Once you understand this and it becomes part of you, Christmas becomes even more exciting and more magical because you come to realize the magic comes from you when Santa lives in your heart. Do you understand what I am trying to tell you? I was gazing out the front window with all my concentration at a tree in front of us. I was afraid to look at my dad, the person who had told me all of my life that Santa was a real being. I wanted to believe, like I believed last year, that Santa was a big fat elf in a red suit. I did not want to swallow the grow-up pill and see anything different. Patty, look at me. My dad waited. I turned my head and looked at him. Dad had tears in his eyes too, tears of joy. His face shone with the light of 1,000 galaxies, and I saw in his eyes the eyes of Santa Claus, the real Santa Claus, the one who spent time choosing special things I had wanted for all the Christmases past, since the time I had come to live on this planet. The Santa who ate my carefully decorated cookies and drank the warm milk. The Santa who probably ate the carrot I left for Rudolph. The Santa who, despite his utter lack of mechanical skills, put together bicycles, wagons, and other miscellaneous items during the wee hours of Christmas mornings. I got it. I got the joy, the sharing, the love. My dad pulled me to him in a warm embrace and just held me for what seemed like the longest time. We both cried. Now you belong to a special group of people, Dad continued. You will share in the joy of Christmas from now on, every day of the year, not only on a special day. For now, Santa Claus lives in your heart just like he lives in mine. It is your responsibility to fulfill the spirit of giving as your part of Santa living inside of you. This is one of the most important things that can happen to you in your whole life, because now you know that Santa Claus cannot exist without people like you and me to keep him alive. Do you think you can handle it? My heart swelled with pride, and I'm sure my eyes were shining with excitement. Of course, Dad. I want him to be in my heart just like he's in yours. I love you, Daddy. You're the best Santa there ever was in the whole world. When it comes time in my life to explain the reality of Santa Claus to my children, I pray to the Spirit of Christmas that I will be as eloquent and loving as my dad was the day I learned that the spirit of Santa Claus doesn't wear a red suit. And I hope they will be as receptive as I was that day. I trust them totally, and I think they will be. Okay, and then we've got your 80s. Those were a little tough. 80 number 1, you have Black's Law Dictionary, and that's it. This is 80 test number 1, lit for 5 minutes, and proper name, Black's Law Dictionary, okay? This young man, the defendant here, is accused of calling the plaintiff on several occasions at her home and at her place of work and using threatening and offensive language. I want you to understand that this is a serious charge. In order to impress you with how serious this charge is, I am going to read to you the law regarding phone communications, which involve harassment and improper language. The law is as follows. No person shall engage in or make a phone call, phone conversation, or phone conference with a person anonymously or otherwise, and therein use obscene, profane, vulgar, lewd, or crude language, or make a remark or proposal of an obscene nature, or threaten any illegal or immoral act with the intent to coerce, frighten, or to harass some person. Or no person shall make repeated phone calls anonymously or not in a way that's expected to annoy, abuse, torment, harass, embarrass, or offend another, whether or not conversation ensues. Thus, in order to convict the defendant of the crime of being guilty through telephone calls that involved improper words and harassment, you must first be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant did, in fact, make any one or more phone calls made on the dates in the period between the dates here outlined in the bill of information to the location outlined in the bill of information, and that in so doing, the defendant did engage in or did institute a phone call or did have a phone conference with a person anonymously or otherwise, and therein did in fact use profane, crude, vulgar, lewd, or vile language, or any hint or proposal of an obscene nature, or threaten any illegal or immoral act with the specific intent to coerce, frighten, or harass a person, or that the defendant did make such phone calls, phone communications as outlined in the Bill of Information, and made those repeated phone calls anonymously or not in a way that was reasonably expected to annoy, abuse, torment, harass, embarrass, or offend another, whether or not a talk ensued or took place. As to some of the terms that are outlined in these two definitions of this type of criminal acts, the law, according to Black's Law Dictionary, the 4th edition, in defining some of these terms is as follows. Obscene is defined as offensive to chastity of, and then we've got your 80 number 2 day-to-day and Persian. Okay, this is going to be 80 lit number 2 for 5 minutes. Having a pet around the house has been proven to be a real factor in how long and how happily many people live. Having a living thing in the house seems to give older persons a feeling of security. Some elderly people buy dogs for security. Most of us, young and old, buy our pets because they make us feel good and smile, and we relax at home. In many families, the dog is the responsibility of the children and is a good way to teach children to take responsibility for a certain task. Feeding, washing, walking, and generally caring for a pet is quite a job if done correctly. Many parents do not want a pet, especially a dog or cat. Birds and fish are good alternatives. They are quiet, can be left alone, as long as plenty of food is provided, and are not underfoot on a day-to-day basis. In some cities, different pet shelters take the pets to visit elderly people in nursing homes. The residents love the visits. It often seems they welcome holding or petting an animal that is actually in many ways more helpless than they are. The death of a cat can be traumatic in a child's life, but can also be a learning experience that will enable the child to deal with the death of a beloved family member at some later time with a better understanding of what death is. Pets come to us bringing nothing but their affection, fleas, and needs to be tended. The enjoyment they give is worth the small amount of time they need. They are most often loving, affectionate, and playful, and they are a healthy alternative for a child to a television set. It is, of course, much preferred to have a child out walking a pet on a lazy afternoon than crashed in front of the television set. Many pet owners spend large amounts of money pampering their pets. One current trend is to have portraits of pets. There are actually picture studios which photograph animals exclusively. Another trend is to buy space in pet cemeteries. These plots for animals can be very costly and have become a status symbol for the very rich. From the tiny poodle with the rhinestone or possibly diamond collar to the old beagle scratching fleas on the front porch to the Persian cat. Okay, you all, so that concludes your tests. They were a little tough. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day, you all.